Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is not just a story. It's a heartbreaking journey of how a single decision changed a girl's life forever. Beauty was not just an ordinary girl. She was the miracle child her parents had waited for after 15 long years of tears, shame, and prayers. When other families mocked them for being barren, they clung to faith. And just when they were about to give up, God blessed them with beauty. She grew up cherished, protected, and loved beyond measure. Her parents named her Beauty not only because of her flawless looks, but because she was the answer to their deepest pain. By the time Beauty reached the University of Lagos, she had become the pride of her family. A brilliant final year student, she was close to completing her degree. All she needed was to finish her project, a project that had been giving her sleepless nights. To save time, she approached Victor, one of her classmates who had already gotten his supervisor's approval. Victor was smart, approachable, and kind. He offered to help her without hesitation and told her to meet him later at the boys' hostel lobby, but fate had a different plan that night. Beauty got so carried away with editing and typing the project that she lost track of time. By the time she packed her books and walked out of the boys' hostel, the clock struck 11 p.m. The campus was unusually quiet, and the only way back to the girls' hostel was through a narrow, lonely path that cut between two abandoned buildings. She had walked that road before, so she didn't think much of it. After all, this was a school environment. What could possibly happen? She forgot about one man, one name that had haunted her quietly since her second year in school. His nickname was Old Taker, a notorious, wealthy internet fraudster who had dropped out and traveled to South Africa. Whenever he visited the campus, his presence was loud, flashy cars, noisy parties, and expensive drinks. He had wanted Beauty since her early days in school, but she never gave him attention. Now, on this dark night, fate made her cross his path again. As Beauty walked quickly, clutching her books, she suddenly heard footsteps behind her. Before she could turn, a deep voice called out her name, "Beauty, don't you recognize me anymore?" Her heart skipped. It was Old Taker. He stepped out of the shadows with a mocking smile, reeking of alcohol. Beauty's instincts told her to keep moving, and she did. She said calmly, "Please, I'm not interested in any conversation tonight." But Old Taker wasn't the kind to accept rejection. Within seconds, he whistled sharply, and from the darkness, 3 men emerged. That was the moment Beauty's nightmare began. If Beauty had known that this short walk would change her destiny forever, she would never have stepped onto that lonely path. The silence of the night was broken by Old Taker's laughter, loud, mocking, and filled with wicked intent. He moved closer, blocking her way. His friends circled her like wolves surrounding prey. "Old Taker, I said I'm not interested." Beauty's voice trembled, but she tried to stand her ground. She clutched her project file tightly, her knuckles pale from fear. But Old Taker only smiled wider. "Since 200 level I've been telling you. One day, you'll give me your attention. Tonight, you won't run away." Before Beauty could scream, one of the boys snatched her file and threw it to the ground. Another grabbed her by the arm. She struggled, kicking and pleading, but they overpowered her. Her cries echoed into the night, but the campus was asleep, and no one heard. At least, that's what she thought. Far away, Victor was on his way back to the hostel after dropping off some notes. As he walked, he heard faint screams carried by the wind. At first, he thought it was just noise from late-night students, but then he recognized the voice. His heart dropped. It was Beauty. Without a second thought, he sprinted toward the narrow path, but by the time Victor arrived, it was too late. The ground was littered with torn pages of Beauty's project file. Her clothes were ripped, and her body was crumpled in pain. Old Taker and his gang had vanished into the night like shadows. The sight froze Victor's blood. He rushed to her side, his hands shaking. "Beauty. Oh my God, what happened? Who did this to you?" His voice cracked, but Beauty couldn't speak. Her lips trembled, her face stained with tears, her body shaking uncontrollably. She looked at him with eyes that begged for help, but also carried the shame of what had just happened. Victor quickly removed his jacket, wrapping it around her fragile body. He tried to chase after the attackers, but the night had already swallowed them. He returned, kneeling beside her, whispering, "You're safe now. I'm here. Please, let's get you to the clinic." But inside Beauty's heart, nothing felt safe anymore. Something had been stolen from her that night, her innocence, her peace, her trust in the world. And though she didn't know it yet, that single encounter with Old Taker would set her on a path that would one day make her vow to infect many men. A vow she would live to regret. That night, Victor carried Beauty to the school clinic. His hands were shaking, his heart beating fast. The nurse on duty rushed out when she saw them. Beauty's clothes were torn, her body bruised, and her eyes swollen from crying. They took her inside quickly. The nurse kept asking, "Who did this? What happened?" But Beauty stayed quiet. She refused to speak. Her lips trembled, but not a single word came out. Victor wanted to talk. He wanted to tell them about Old Taker, but Beauty gripped his hand tightly and shook her head. She was afraid. Afraid of shame. Afraid her parents would hear. Afraid people in school would talk and point fingers. In her mind, keeping silent was the only way to protect herself. But in reality, that silence was the beginning of more pain. The next morning, Victor stayed by her side. He tried again. "Beauty, please, let's report this. You know who did this to you. They cannot go free." But tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "No, Victor. Please, don't tell anyone. I beg you." Victor felt helpless. He wanted justice for her, but he also didn't want to go against her wishes. So he stayed quiet too. But deep inside, he knew Old Taker was dangerous, and one day, this secret would explode. When Beauty finally went back to her hostel, she locked herself inside. Days passed, but she refused to eat. She avoided her friends. Her once bright eyes were now filled with sadness. She was alive, but a part of her heart died on that narrow path, and what Beauty didn't know was that the night of her attack had planted something deadly inside her body. Something that would change her story forever. Weeks passed. Beauty was never the same again. She stopped smiling, she stopped talking, and she avoided everyone, even Victor. Her parents noticed whenever she came home on weekends. "Beauty, are you okay?" her mother asked one Sunday. But Beauty only forced a smile and said, "I'm fine, Mommy." Inside, she was breaking. Months later, Beauty started feeling weak. At first, she thought it was stress from school. She was in her final year, and project work was tiring. But soon, it got worse. She lost her appetite, her skin became pale, and she was always tired. Even climbing the stairs to her hostel room became a struggle. One afternoon, Victor saw her sitting alone, looking sickly. He rushed to her side. "Beauty, this is not ordinary stress. Please, let's go to the hospital." At first she refused, but when her body grew weaker, she finally agreed. At the hospital, the doctors ran different tests. Beauty sat in the waiting room, her hands shaking. Her heart was beating so fast it felt like it would jump out of her chest. She prayed silently, "God, please let everything be fine." But when the doctor returned with the results, his face was serious. He looked at Beauty and said gently, "My dear, I am sorry, but the test shows that you are HIV positive." The words hit her like thunder. Beauty froze. Her ears rang, her eyes widened, and she felt the whole room spinning. No, it's not possible," she whispered. But the doctor only sighed, "I'm afraid it's true. We will guide you, but you must accept this." Tears poured down her face uncontrollably. She remembered that terrible night, Old Taker and his gang, and she realized this was where it came from. They had not only stolen her innocence, they had left her with a sickness she could never erase. From that day, anger grew inside Beauty's heart. Anger at Old Taker, anger at men, anger at herself for being helpless. She made a silent vow, "If men ruin my life, then I will ruin theirs. They will feel my pain too." That was the beginning of a dangerous path. Beauty's heart grew darker each day after the doctor's news. She no longer cared about graduation or a project. She only thought about one thing, revenge. She believed men had ruined her life, so she would ruin theirs too. At first, she started going to school parties, something she never did before. She dressed to attract attention, wore heavy makeup, and moved with boldness that shocked her friends. Many men admired her beauty and chased after her. She didn't push them away. Instead, she welcomed them, but inside, she carried a deadly secret. She never told any man about her status. She would smile sweetly, allow them close, and after spending the night with them, she would leave without a word. In her heart, she whispered, "Now you will carry my pain too." For a while, Beauty thought she was winning. She thought infecting others would make her feel better. Each time she looked at a man who trusted her, she felt she had taken back the power that Old Taker stole from her. But slowly, Her conscience began to fight her. Some nights, Beauty couldn't sleep. She cried silently on her bed, remembering the faces of the men she had deceived. They were not like Old Taker. They were not her enemies. Yet she had dragged them into her misery. Still, her bitterness wouldn't let her stop. Months passed, and Beauty's health grew worse. She became weak, lost so much weight, and her skin grew pale. The same men who once admired her began to avoid her. Some spread rumors that she was sick, and friends who used to call her class queen now whispered behind her back. Victor, the only one who truly cared for her, tried to reach out. Beauty, please, let me help you. Let's fight this together. But Beauty pushed him away. Shame filled her heart. She couldn't bear to admit what she had been doing. One evening, after leaving another man's house, Beauty sat by the roadside and cried bitterly. She realized she wasn't punishing Old Taker at all. He was out there, still living his reckless life. The ones she hurt were innocent men, some of them students like her. Her revenge had not healed her, it had destroyed her even more. Soon, Beauty was admitted to the hospital. Lying on the bed, she thought about her life, how she was once the pride of her parents, a miracle child, full of dreams. Now, she was just a shadow of herself, consumed by anger and regret. Her parents came and held her hands, crying. With tears streaming down her face, Beauty whispered, "I am sorry. I let pain control me. I hurt many people. Please forgive me." Her mother wept loudly, praying for God's mercy. Before her final breath, Beauty said, "Tell my story. Let the world know that revenge never heals. Tell young girls to speak up, not hide in silence. Tell men to respect women. Tell everyone that life is too precious to waste on bitterness." And with those last words, Beauty closed her eyes forever. Revenge only multiplies pain, but forgiveness is the only path to peace. Please give this video a like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories. See you in the next one.